If you're like me, you've spent countless hours watching YouTube videos on how to be a better dungeon master. You already know the players aren't your enemy and you don't have to read the whole DM's guide, right? But maybe you've done all the research you can. Maybe it's time to put on your Dungeon Master goggles and dive right in. That's what I did. A little over a year ago I started my very first D&D campaign, and it's been a great success. Today I'm going to share with you my story and everything it has taught me along the way. Stick around to the end for a couple of bonus tips as well. So I give each of my players a solo one-shot adventure. It only lasted about an hour and it explored their backstories leading up to the events of session 1. Each player then arrived separately at the gates of a small village called Timber Falls. You can do something similar because incorporating your players' backstories into the game is incredibly important to keep them interested. And this first solo session basically lets you add the final touches to their backstories in real time, and they don't even notice. Fast forward to session 1 and they're all stood outside this gate and they have their first attempt at teamwork. All of the major NPCs in Timber Falls are the shopkeepers and the merchants. This basically means that the players will be speaking with each of them without specifically seeking out the plot hooks, making your job easier. There's no reason to talk to that random guy in that random house when the baker saw the barber and the butcher's after dark. That butcher's up to something, I'm telling you. You can implement this easily by pre-writing your merchants for the upcoming town. It doesn't have to be overly complex. You should just make each one unique in an obvious way and they will be instantly memorable. Give them a catchphrase or a funny hat, as long as the players remember that's what's important. Finally, give each merchant 1 or 2 secrets. These secrets don't need to be integral to the plot in any way. They're just there to show that these characters have lives beyond that the players can see. Eventually your players will become attached to your NPCs. They may even try and drag them on the adventure with them. And while most NPCs aren't cut out for the adventuring life, the odd one is. Offering NPC companions that fill the missing roles in the party is great. My players didn't have a healer, so they bumped into Percy, the local potion merchant who wants to get out of this one-horse town. Here you run the risk of the dreaded DNPC. When your NPC takes a spotlight, nobody is having fun. So you can use these simple rules to make sure that your players are always the stars of the show. Your NPC companions will never take the lead, they will never roll skill checks instead of the players, and they will never start combat without the players. They will, however, have their own goals that they will encourage the party to pursue. Anyway, Percy tags along for a while until the players get too attached, and then he inevitably dies to the BBEG's henchmen. Once the players finally reach the major city, it teems with life. Every NPC walking through potentially needs a name and motivation, but once again, with all the merchants having names and backstories, each random NPC simply needs to connect with one of them and your job gets a lot easier. The same goes with guilds and factions around the city. Make sure you plan out the key NPCs in each guild and how their relationship is with each other. Once the players become attached to all of their new NPC friends, they uncover a plot to curse the whole city and turn it into a giant rat's nest. It's at this point that one of the PCs in a side quest dies. It was awful. I mean, players cried, I held back tears, and we were all genuinely mourning for about an hour. Sometimes characters die. I mean, it sucks, but if you want your world to feel real, I mean really real, the gelatinous cube can't just spit out your barbarian and slide away. The cube's gotta eat, or digest, or whatever. And don't worry, the players will still love your game, but the stakes are real now. But now you have a new challenge, because that character's backstory was integral to the plot. I mean, that was the first tip. Instead of removing all of the plot points and secrets that you had, leave them in. The player's new character, whom will be woven into the plot as we go, will find these clues. My players loved it and they were able to wrap up the dead PC's story post-mortem, while introducing this new PC to the fray. The player was so excited about creating his new character because he had a lot more to choose from. Stick around to the end of the video to find out how turning your game into a collectathon keeps your players engaged and excited and makes your job easier. Finally, after letting the barbarian with a -2 charisma modifier do most of their talking, the group started an all-out war in the city between the rat folk and the town above. Because the players' actions have consequences, and it's a really great idea to keep a tally of their relationship status with certain NPCs and factions. So I had to run about 20 NPCs during this battle, and while at the time I was worried that the long initiative was boring, the players still talk about it as the Great Battle of Seyflid and one of their favourite D&D experiences. This is because all the characters weren't nameless, faceless NPCs. They got to know the factions fighting off the rat folk and the merchants fleeing for their lives. Even stopping mid-fight with the BBEG to go and save a single merchant's life because they liked that character. Eventually they succeeded. They slayed the Rat Queen and they saved the city. A statue of them was erected in the town centre and they became known as the Saviours of Seyflid. 2 weeks later, a single vampire thrall cornered them in a room and killed everyone. Yeah, that was the end of chapter 1 of my campaign. Echoes of Kakaboros. But the saga continues and the players are excited about making their new PCs. So back to that collectathon tip from earlier. In our session 0, I told the players they have a very limited access to races in my homebrew setting. Just the basics, the human, the elf, the dwarf, the halfling and the gnome. But like a collectathon, the more races they meet throughout gameplay, the more they have access to in character creation. This simple tip made my job a lot easier by letting me decide how tieflings and dragonborns, for example, fit into my world later, focusing less on the lore and world building and more on what is happening locally to the players. It also made for a really exciting experience when the players finally meet a new race and they feel like they've unlocked something. You can add this collectathon element to your world building in general, allowing you to generate your world on the go easier. Give your players a map of the region with absolutely no place names. Let them mark the locations off as they discover them. The only thing I think you should avoid improvising on the spot is your NPCs, because they, more than anything else, make your world feel real. For tons of free companion, nemesis and even BBEG NPCs, check out this playlist and subscribe for more homebrew content. Bye!